The testing arena was built into the heart of the station, a circular space large enough to hold thousands of spectators. Seats rose in rings around the central platform, filled with aliens of every shape and size. Floating cameras drifted through the air, broadcasting the event to billions of viewers across the galaxy. This was not just a military exhibition. It was entertainment, and the crowd was eager to see which species would succeed and which would fail. Daniel sat in the section reserved for human observers. Nathan was beside him, clutching a tablet that showed real-time data from the Titan armor. Around them, aliens whispered and pointed at the heavy suits standing in the preparation area below. Ashley was already inside the armor, running through her final checks. The suit hummed with power as its systems came online. Through her helmet display, she could see everything: temperature readings, structural integrity, power levels, and the crowd of aliens looking down at her like she was a primitive creature in a zoo. A booming voice filled the arena, translated automatically into every language present. Welcome to the Defensive Technology Demonstration. Today, 12 species will show the strength of their protective systems against standard galactic plasma fire. Each defender must withstand 3 direct hits. Those who succeed will earn recognition. Those who fail will learn the value of better engineering. The crowd cheered. Ashley watched the first species step onto the central platform. The Velthari went first, as they always did. Their champion was a female soldier wrapped in a skin-tight suit that seemed to glow from within. Around her body, an energy shield flickered into existence, visible only as a faint shimmer in the air. She stood with perfect confidence, her arms spread wide as if welcoming the attack. The plasma rifle fired 3 times. Each bolt was a streak of blue-white energy that moved faster than the eye could follow. They struck the Velthari shield and scattered into harmless sparks that faded before they touched the ground. The soldier had not moved even a single step. The crowd roared with approval. Kesoth, watching from a raised platform reserved for ambassadors, smiled with satisfaction. Other species followed. The insectoid Kryn used a soldier whose body was covered in reflective plates that turned the plasma bolts away at sharp angles. The aquatic Dorvani employed a suit filled with liquid metal that absorbed the energy and redistributed it harmlessly. The massive Gorath simply stood and let the plasma hit their naturally armored hide, their dense bones and thick skin stopping the bolts without any technology at all. A smaller species called the Fenari lost their shield after the second hit, forcing their soldier to dive for cover before the third bolt could strike. The crowd laughed, and the Fenari delegation left the arena in shame. Finally, it was humanity's turn. Ashley stepped onto the platform, and the arena fell into a strange silence. The Titan armor clanked and hissed with each step. Compared to the graceful alien defenders who had come before, she looked like a walking tank, crude and heavy and out of place among the stars. Someone in the crowd made a noise that sounded like laughter. Others joined in. By the time Ashley reached the center of the platform, the entire arena was filled with the sound of alien amusement. She ignored them all. Inside the helmet, she focused on her breathing. 3 shots. That was all she needed to survive. The plasma rifle powered up with a high-pitched whine. Ashley planted her feet and faced the weapon directly. She did not spread her arms or strike a pose like the Velthari soldier had done. She simply stood there, solid and unmoving, a wall of metal and ceramic, waiting for the storm. The first bolt hit her chest. The impact pushed her back half a step, but she recovered instantly. The outer layer of armor absorbed the energy, glowing red for a moment before cooling. No damage, no breach. The second bolt struck her shoulder. Again she rocked slightly, and again she held her ground. The armor held. The third bolt aimed for her helmet. Ashley did not flinch. The plasma splashed against the reinforced faceplate and dissipated into nothing. She stood exactly where she had been standing, untouched and unharmed. The arena was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, polite applause began. It was not the enthusiastic cheering that had greeted the Velthari or the Gorath. It was the kind of applause given to a child who had managed to complete a simple task. Acknowledgement without respect. Ashley walked off the platform with her head held high. She had passed the test. She had proven that human armor could do what it was designed to do. But as she rejoined Daniel and Nathan in the preparation area, she could see that nothing had changed. The aliens still looked at her with the same dismissive expressions. "Well done," Daniel said quietly. "You showed them." "I showed them nothing," Ashley replied, her voice flat. "They think we just got lucky. They think any of their technologies could do the same thing with a tenth of the weight." Nathan checked his tablet. The armor performed perfectly. Every system is still operational. We could do this 100 more times with the same result. But they do not care. Ashley removed her helmet and wiped sweat from her forehead. To them, we are still primitives playing with heavy toys. Before Daniel could respond, a shadow fell over them. They looked up to see Kesoth approaching, his robes now a shade of gold that suggested superiority. "Congratulations, Commander," Kesoth said. "Your soldiers survived the test, a remarkable achievement for such a young species." Daniel heard the mockery beneath the polite words. "Thank you, Ambassador. We are proud of our technology." "As you should be." Kesoth paused, looking at the Titan armor with those large, dark eyes. "But I wonder if your pride is perhaps misplaced. The standard test is designed to be achievable by any civilization with basic defensive capability. It does not truly measure the strength of technology. It merely confirms that you have reached the minimum standard." "What are you suggesting?" Daniel asked carefully. Kesoth smiled that sharp-toothed smile. "I am suggesting a more interesting test, Commander. One that would truly show what human engineering can accomplish. Or perhaps more accurately, what it cannot." Ashley stepped forward, still holding her helmet. "What kind of test?" The Veltari ambassador looked at her with something like pity. "We have brought a weapon to this exhibition that has never been used against personal armor. The Annihilator Lance fires a concentrated beam of dark energy, capable of cutting through starship hulls. No shield, no plating, no technology of any kind has ever survived a direct hit." The preparation area had gone quiet. Other delegations were watching now, drawn by the tension in Kesoth's voice. "You want us to stand in front of that?" Nathan asked, his face pale. "I am merely offering the opportunity," Kesoth said smoothly. "If humans truly believe their armor is superior, then this would be the perfect chance to prove it. But of course, I understand if you would prefer to decline. No one would blame you for knowing your limitations." Daniel looked at Ashley. Ashley looked back at him with steady eyes. The choice was theirs to make, and the entire galaxy was watching. The preparation area felt smaller than before. Daniel could feel the eyes of a dozen alien delegations watching them, waiting to see how the humans would respond to Kesoth's challenge. The Velthari ambassador stood with perfect patience, his robes shifting through shades of gold and purple as he enjoyed the discomfort he had created. Daniel kept his voice calm. "You are asking us to test our armor against a weapon designed to destroy starships. That seems beyond the scope of a personal defense demonstration." "Perhaps it is," Kesoth admitted. "But is that not what makes it interesting? Anyone can survive a plasma bolt. The true measure of technology is how it performs against the impossible." He gestured toward the arena, where the crowd was beginning to realize something unusual was happening. "Think of what it would mean for humanity if your armor succeeded. You would go from being laughed at to being respected in a single moment." "And if it fails?" Nathan asked. His hands were shaking slightly as he clutched his tablet. "If the armor fails, our soldier dies." Kesoth tilted his head. That is always the risk when testing the limits of technology. But I am not forcing anyone to accept. I am simply offering the opportunity. If humans would rather remain cautious and unremarkable, that is entirely your choice. Ashley stepped closer to Daniel and spoke in a low voice. He is trying to trap us. If we say no, we look like cowards. If we say yes and fail, we prove that human technology is inferior. I know, Daniel replied quietly, but what do you want to do? Ashley was silent for a moment. She looked at the Titan armor standing nearby, its surface still warm from the plasma test. She had spent years training to pilot that suit. She knew its capabilities better than anyone, even Nathan, who had designed it. The armor was heavy because it needed to be heavy. Every layer served a purpose. Every system had been built with one goal in mind: keeping the person inside alive when everything else failed. I want to know if it can be done, Ashley said. Nathan, what are the chances? Nathan pulled up data on his tablet, his fingers moving quickly despite his nervousness. The Titan armor uses an ablative dispersion system. When extreme energy hits the outer layers, those layers are designed to vaporize and scatter the energy outward. The inner core is made from materials that do not exist anywhere else in the galaxy. We developed them specifically to handle situations that should be impossible. That does not answer my question, Ashley said. Nathan looked up from the tablet. Honestly, I do not know. We never tested against anything close to the Annihilator Lance. The math suggests survival is possible. The outer layers will certainly be destroyed, but the inner core should hold. Should. I cannot guarantee it. Then it is a gamble, Daniel said. Everything we have done since leaving Earth has been a gamble, Ashley replied. We gambled when we made first contact. We gambled when we joined the Galactic Council. We gambled when we came to this exhibition with armor that everyone said was too primitive to matter. She met Daniel's eyes. If we back down now, we prove them right. We prove that humans are exactly what they think we are: cautious, limited, afraid to take risks. Daniel understood what she was saying. This was not just about the armor anymore. This was about humanity's place in the galaxy. Every species out there had decided that humans were not worth taking seriously. They had laughed at human technology, dismissed human achievements, and treated Earth like a minor curiosity that would eventually fade into irrelevance. Accepting the challenge was dangerous, but refusing it might be worse. Daniel turned to face Kessoth. We need time to prepare. How long before the test can begin? The Valthari ambassador's robes flickered with surprise, quickly replaced by satisfaction. You are accepting? We are considering it, Daniel said carefully. Give us 1 hour to inspect the weapon and make our decision. Kessoth nodded graciously. Of course, Commander. Take all the time you need. I will have the Annihilator Lance brought to the arena. He turned and walked away, his delegation following behind him like shadows. As soon as the Valthari were gone, Nathan grabbed Daniel's arm. Commander, this is insane. We cannot ask Ashley to stand in front of a weapon that destroys starships. Even if the armor holds, the impact alone could kill her. I am not asking her anything, Daniel said. She volunteered. Because she feels like she has to. Because you made her feel like the entire future of humanity depends on this one moment. Ashley interrupted them both. No one made me feel anything. This is my choice, Nathan. I knew the risks when I signed up for this mission. I knew that we might face something like this. She put her hand on his shoulder. You built that armor to protect people in impossible situations. Now we get to find out if it works. Nathan shook his head, but he did not argue further. He turned back to his tablet and began running calculations, looking for any way to improve the armor's chances. Daniel walked to the edge of the preparation area and looked out at the arena. Technicians were already setting up the Annihilator Lance at the far end of the platform. The weapon was massive, a long barrel connected to a generator the size of a shuttle. Cables thick as trees fed power into the system, and cooling units surrounded it to prevent overheating. This was a weapon meant to punch holes in warships. It had no business being used against a single soldier in a suit of armor. But Kessoff had made his challenge, and backing down was not an option. If Ashley failed, humanity would be humiliated. If she succeeded, everything would change. Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. It showed his family, his wife Maria, his son Christopher, and his daughter Emma. They were back on Earth, waiting to hear how the exhibition had gone. He had promised them he would make humanity proud. He put the photograph away and walked back to his team. "We have 1 hour," he said. "Let us make it count. Nathan, I want every possible adjustment made to the armor. Ashley, rest while you can. You are going to need all your strength." Ashley nodded and sat down on a crate, closing her eyes. Nathan hurried toward the armor, already shouting instructions to the technical crew. Daniel stood alone in the middle of the chaos, watching the Annihilator lance being assembled in the distance. In 1 hour, humanity would face its greatest test. The entire galaxy would be watching. He hoped they were ready. The hour passed faster than anyone expected. Nathan worked without stopping, adjusting the Titan armor systems and adding extra layers of ablative coating wherever he could find space. The technical crew followed his instructions without question, understanding that a human life depended on their work. Ashley spent the time in quiet meditation, sitting with her back against the wall and her eyes closed. She had learned long ago that fear was useless before a battle. What mattered was focus, calm, and the knowledge that she had done everything possible to prepare. When the time came, she stood and walked toward the armor. Nathan met her there, his face pale but determined. "I have done everything I can," he said. "The outer layers are reinforced. The ablative system is running at maximum efficiency. The inner core should hold." He paused. "Should. You have said that word a lot today," Ashley replied with a small smile. "Because I cannot promise anything else. This is beyond what we designed the armor to handle." Nathan removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Ashley, if you want to back out, no one will blame you. I can tell Daniel that the armor is not ready. We can find another way." Ashley shook her head. "There is no other way. If we back out now, everything we have worked for means nothing. Humanity will always be the species that was too afraid to take risks." She put her hand on Nathan's shoulder. "You built something amazing. Now let me prove it." Nathan nodded slowly and helped her climb into the armor. The suit closed around her like a cocoon, systems powering up with familiar hums and clicks. Her helmet display lit up with data, temperature normal, power at full capacity, structural integrity perfect. For now. Daniel appeared beside them as Ashley completed her final checks. "The arena is full," he said. "Word has spread about what we are attempting. Every species on the station wants to watch." "Good," Ashley replied through the helmet speakers. "Let them see what humans can do." They walked together toward the arena entrance. The noise of the crowd grew louder with each step, a mixture of voices in languages Ashley could not understand. When she stepped onto the central platform, the sound became a roar that seemed to shake the walls. The Annihilator lance dominated the far end of the arena. It was even larger than Ashley had expected, a weapon of war brought to a place of demonstration. The generator behind it pulsed with dark energy, and the barrel pointed directly at the spot where she would stand. Kessoff watched from his ambassador's platform, his robes now a deep shade of red that Ashley suspected meant excitement. Around him, other alien dignitaries leaned forward in their seats, eager to witness what would happen next. Ashley walked to the center of the platform and stopped. She turned to face the weapon, her armored boots planted firmly on the ground. Through her helmet display, she could see the power readings of the Annihilator lance climbing higher and higher as it charged. The arena fell silent. A message appeared on her private display, a text from her younger brother Kevin back on Earth. He had somehow found out what she was doing and wanted to wish her luck. Ashley smiled inside her helmet and sent a quick reply. "I love you. No matter what happens, remember that I chose this." The booming announcer's voice echoed through the arena. "The human defender has accepted the challenge. The Annihilator Lance will fire in 30 seconds. All spectators are advised to remain in protected seating." 30 seconds. Ashley focused on her breathing, on the weight of the armor around her, on the years of training that had brought her to this moment. She was not afraid. She was ready. Kesoth rose from his seat and raised one hand. "Let this be a lesson to all who watch," he called out, his voice carrying across the silent arena. "Today we will see the limits of primitive technology. Today we will see why some species are meant to lead and others are meant to follow." Ashley did not respond. She simply stood and waited. The countdown began. 20 seconds. 15. 10. The Annihilator Lance began to glow with a light that was not light, a darkness that seemed to swallow everything around it. The air itself seemed to bend near the barrel, as if reality was having trouble processing what was about to happen. 5 seconds. 4. 3. 2. 1. The weapon fired. Ashley had expected noise, but there was none. The beam of dark energy crossed the arena in perfect silence, a line of absolute blackness that connected the weapon to her chest in a single instant. The impact was like nothing she had ever felt, a force that seemed to push against her very existence rather than just her body. The world disappeared into darkness and heat and pressure. She felt the outer layers of her armor vaporize, exactly as Nathan had designed them to do. Energy scattered outward in waves that cracked the platform beneath her feet. Her helmet display flickered and died, leaving her blind inside the smoking shell of her suit. For a long moment, she felt nothing. She wondered if she was dead, if this darkness was what came after life ended. Then she felt pain. Her entire body ached, pressed against the inner walls of the armor by the force of the impact. Her ears rang with a sound that seemed to come from inside her skull. She was alive. The armor's backup systems activated, and her display flickered back to life. Warning lights covered every surface. Outer layers, destroyed. Secondary layers, critical damage. Inner core, holding. Structural integrity, 42%. But she was standing. She was still standing. Ashley took one step forward. The crowd gasped. She took another step, and the gasp became a roar of disbelief. The smoke began to clear around her, revealing the devastation. The platform was cracked in a circle around where she had stood, and the outer shell of her armor had been completely burned away, leaving only the scarred and glowing inner core. But she was standing. She was walking. She was alive. Kesoth had risen from his seat, his robes cycling through colors so quickly that Ashley could not track them. His mouth hung open, his composure completely shattered. Around him, other ambassadors were shouting questions, demanding explanations, refusing to believe what they had just witnessed. Ashley stopped in the center of the ruined platform and raised one armored fist into the air. The arena exploded with sound. Aliens who had laughed at human technology were now screaming with shock and amazement. The cameras that floated through the air broadcast her image across the galaxy, showing billions of viewers that a human soldier had survived the impossible. Daniel and Nathan rushed onto the platform, pushing through technicians and officials who were too stunned to stop them. They reached Ashley just as her legs finally gave out, catching her before she could fall. "You did it," Daniel said, his voice breaking with emotion. "You actually did it." Ashley could not speak. She could barely think. But inside her ruined helmet, she smiled. Humanity had made its mark on the galaxy. The medical bay on the Galactic Council Station was designed to treat dozens of different species. But the doctors had never seen anything quite like Ashley Morgan. She had bruises covering most of her body, 3 cracked ribs, a minor concussion, and burns on her arms where the inner armor had overheated. By every reasonable measure, she should have been dead. Instead, she was sitting up in bed and complaining that she wanted to get back to work. Daniel sat beside her, reading through the messages that had flooded in from Earth. The government had already announced that Ashley would receive the Medal of Valor, the highest honor given to military personnel. News networks were calling her the most famous human alive. Her face was on every screen, in every language, across every world that had watched the demonstration. "You should rest," Daniel said, without looking up from his tablet. "The doctors say you need at least a week to recover." "The doctors have never been hit by a starship weapon," Ashley replied. "They do not know what I need." Nathan entered the medical bay carrying a case of equipment. His face had changed since the demonstration, losing some of its nervousness and gaining something that looked almost like confidence. "I have been analyzing the armor data," he said, setting the case on a nearby table. "The ablative system performed even better than I hoped. The outer layers vaporized in exactly the right sequence to disperse the energy outward. If they had failed even 1% faster, the inner core would have been overwhelmed." "So, I was lucky," Ashley said. "Lucky and well protected," Nathan agreed. "The armor saved your life, but your willingness to wear it is what made the difference. The best technology in the galaxy is worthless without someone brave enough to test it." The door to the medical bay opened again, and a figure entered that made everyone in the room fall silent. It was Kessoff, the Valtari ambassador. His robes were a pale gray color that none of them had seen before. He walked slowly, his usual grace replaced by something that looked almost like uncertainty. Daniel stood immediately, positioning himself between the ambassador and Ashley's bed. "Ambassador Kessoff, I did not expect to see you here." Kessoff stopped a few feet away and stood in silence for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than before, stripped of its usual arrogance. "I came to apologize." The words hung in the air. Ashley sat up straighter, ignoring the pain in her ribs. "I underestimated your species," Kessoff continued. "I believe that technology must be elegant to be powerful. I believed that advanced civilizations had moved beyond the need for physical protection. I was wrong." He looked directly at Ashley. "What you did today was not luck. It was the result of engineering designed by people who understood something my people have forgotten. That survival sometimes requires carrying a heavier burden than others think possible." Ashley did not know how to respond. She had expected anger from the Valthari, or denial, or continued mockery. She had not expected this. Kessoff reached into his robes and withdrew a small object, a crystal that glowed with soft inner light. "This is a token of respect among my people. It is given only to those who have proven themselves worthy of honor. I would like you to have it." He held the crystal out toward Ashley. She looked at Daniel, who nodded slightly. She took the crystal and felt its warmth against her palm. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I did not do this for honor. I did it for my people." "I know," Kessoff replied. "That is why you deserve it." He bowed his head slightly, a gesture that seemed completely foreign to his nature, and then turned and left the medical bay without another word. The days that followed changed everything for humanity. The demonstration had been broadcast across the galaxy, and the response was overwhelming. Species that had ignored Earth's requests for trade now sent ambassadors seeking partnerships. Scientists from a dozen worlds requested access to study the Titan armor's design. Military leaders who had dismissed human technology as primitive now asked for joint training exercises. Daniel spent most of his time in meetings, negotiating agreements that would have been impossible a week earlier. Earth was no longer a minor curiosity. It was a rising power, a civilization that had proven it could stand against the impossible and survive. Nathan became famous in his own right, invited to speak at scientific conferences across the galaxy. He accepted some invitations and declined others, preferring to spend his time improving the Titan armor design. The next generation of suits, he promised, would be even stronger. Ashley recovered slowly. Her body healed faster than the doctors expected, though they warned her that the psychological effects of the demonstration might take longer to process. She did not feel traumatized. She felt proud and tired and ready to go home. 3 weeks after the demonstration, Ashley stood in a shuttle, preparing to return to Earth. Daniel and Nathan were there to see her off, along with a small crowd of human personnel who had heard about her departure. "You could stay," Daniel said. "There are opportunities here now. Important work that needs to be done." Ashley shook her head. "My work is on Earth. There are soldiers who need to be trained, armor that needs to be tested, people who need to be reminded what we are capable of." She smiled. "Besides, my brother Kevin keeps sending me messages asking when I am coming home. I promised I would teach him how to pilot a shuttle." Daniel laughed and shook her hand. "Thank you, Lieutenant, for everything." "Thank you for giving me the chance," Ashley replied. She boarded the shuttle and took a seat by the window. As the ship pulled away from the station, she looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were thousands of worlds, billions of beings, all of whom now knew the name of her species. Humanity had earned its place among them, not through elegance or advanced technology, but through stubbornness and courage and the willingness to carry a heavier burden. The shuttle entered faster than light travel, and the stars blurred into streaks of light. Ashley closed her eyes and thought about the future. There would be more challenges ahead, more tests, more moments when humanity would need to prove itself. But they had done it once, and they could do it again. When the shuttle landed on Earth 2 days later, Ashley walked down the ramp to find a crowd waiting for her. Her family was at the front, her mother crying with happiness, her father standing tall with pride, and Kevin pushing through everyone to throw his arms around her. "You were amazing," Kevin said, his voice muffled against her shoulder. "I watched the video 100 times. You did not even fall down." Ashley laughed and hugged him back. "I almost did. The armor kept me standing." "The armor in you," Kevin said. "You are the bravest person I know." Ashley looked over her brother's head at the crowd of people who had come to welcome her home. Some were soldiers, some were civilians, some were government officials. All of them looked at her with something she had not seen before: pride and hope, and the knowledge that humanity had taken a step toward the stars. She smiled and raised her hand in greeting. The future was waiting, and she was ready to face it. The Galactic Council Station floated in the darkness of space like a metal flower with 1,000 petals. Ships from dozens of alien worlds docked at its edges, bringing representatives from species that had traveled among the stars for thousands of years. Once every cycle, these species gathered to show off their military technology. It was part competition, part celebration, and part warning to anyone who might think of starting a war. Commander Daniel Porter stood at the window of the human shuttle and watched the station grow larger. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and calm eyes that had seen many battles. Behind him, his small team prepared for what would be humanity's first appearance at this exhibition. Earth had only made contact with alien life 5 years ago, and most species still considered humans to be primitive newcomers who had barely learned to leave their own solar system. In the center of the cargo bay stood the Titan-class exosuit, a massive suit of armor that weighed over 800 pounds. It stood 8 feet tall and was covered in layers of ceramic plating and titanium alloy. Hydraulic systems ran through its limbs like mechanical muscles. It looked like something from an ancient war, heavy and brutal, and completely unlike the sleek alien technology Daniel had seen in briefings. Lieutenant Ashley Morgan sat on a crate near the armor, checking her equipment. She was 29 years old, with short brown hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. Ashley had trained for 3 years to pilot the Titan suit. She knew every system, every weakness, and every strength of the armor. When the military had asked for volunteers to demonstrate the suit in front of aliens who would probably laugh at them, she had been the first to step forward. Dr. Nathan Cole, the lead engineer who had designed the Titan armor, paced nervously nearby. He was a thin man, with glasses and hands that never stopped moving. Nathan believed in his creation, but he also knew how it would look to species who had moved beyond physical armor centuries ago. The shuttle docked with a soft clunk. Daniel gathered his team and led them through the airlock into the station. The first thing Daniel noticed was how the aliens looked at them. A group of tall, blue-skinned beings with elongated skulls watched the humans pass with expressions of mild curiosity, like scientists observing insects. Smaller creatures with too many eyes skittered out of their way. A massive figure covered in stone-like skin simply stared without blinking. A protocol officer, a floating sphere with mechanical tentacles, guided them to the exhibition hall. The hall was enormous, large enough to hold a small city. Booths and platforms displayed weapons and armor from across the galaxy. Energy shields shimmered in the air. Robots performed combat demonstrations. Soldiers in suits that seemed to weigh nothing at all moved with impossible speed. And then there was the human booth, where the Titan armor stood like a statue from a forgotten age. The mockery began almost immediately. A delegation of Velthari approached the human display. The Velthari were considered one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. They had silver skin, large dark eyes, and bodies that moved with fluid grace. Their ambassador, a male named Kesoth, wore robes that shifted color with his mood. Right now, those robes were a shade of purple that Daniel had learned meant amusement. Kesoth walked around the Titan armor slowly, his head tilted to one side. Other Velthari followed him, and soon a small crowd had gathered to watch. "This is your defensive technology?" Kesoth asked. His voice was smooth and carried easily despite the noise of the hall. "This metal shell?" Daniel kept his expression neutral. "The Titan-class exosuit represents the best of human engineering. It can withstand extreme temperatures, radiation, and kinetic impacts that would destroy unprotected soldiers." Kesoth reached out and tapped the armor with one long finger. The sound rang through the booth. "It must weigh as much as a small vehicle. How does your soldier even move?" "The hydraulic systems assist with movement," Nathan said, stepping forward. "The pilot inside experiences the weight as roughly 50 pounds once the systems are active." 50 pounds? Kesoth turned to his companions and made a sound that Daniel recognized as laughter. "Our soldiers wear protection that weighs less than your clothing, Commander. And our shields can stop weapons that your primitive plating cannot even imagine." Ashley stood silently beside the armor, her hands clasped behind her back. Daniel could see the tension in her shoulders, but her face remained calm. "Perhaps a demonstration would help," Kesoth continued. "The exhibition includes a defensive test. Each species shows how their technology handles standard plasma fire. I would very much like to see how your metal box performs." "We would be honored to participate," Daniel said. Kesoth smiled, showing teeth that were slightly too sharp. "Excellent. I look forward to seeing what humans consider protection." The Velthari delegation moved away, their laughter echoing behind them. Other aliens who had been watching drifted off as well, some shaking their heads or making gestures that probably meant similar things in their cultures. Ashley finally spoke once they were alone. "They think we are a joke." "They do," Daniel agreed, "but thinking and knowing are different things. We came here to show them what humans can do, and that is exactly what we are going to do." Nathan adjusted his glasses nervously. The armor will handle plasma fire. I am certain of that. But Daniel, the way they were talking, I am worried they might try to push beyond the standard test. Daniel nodded slowly. He had been thinking the same thing. The Velthari did not seem like the type to simply let humans pass a basic test and earn respect. They wanted to embarrass Earth, to put the newcomers in their place. We will deal with whatever comes, Daniel said. Ashley, are you ready? Ashley looked at the Titan armor, her expression unreadable. I have been ready for 3 years, Commander. Let them laugh. When I am still standing after their weapons have done their worst, we will see who finds it funny. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. This was why he had chosen Ashley for this mission. She did not back down, and she did not break. Whatever the aliens threw at them, she would face it head-on. The exhibition would begin in 12 hours. Daniel looked out at the crowded hall, at all the species who had already decided that humans were not worth their attention. They were about to learn how wrong they were.